gym up with families and parents and students, and I'm just so impressed. Being in corporate America now, I'm not in rooms like this. And to come in here and see all this love and feel this energy is just really heartwarming. And those aren't my prepared remarks, but I just want to share that. And parents, you guys should feel so proud of yourselves. I mean, this is really going against what the stereotype is, going against what people expect. And the only cameras are here from the school, not from the news, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to keep investing in these young people. So with that, Ms. Dobby, thank you very much for the introduction. To our board president, Mr. Rush, thank you for your presence here. Mr. Atkins, school leader, everyone has been so kind to me. If I was sitting up here looking a little disinterested, I've been up since 3 a.m. and my day started in Lansing. It has to end in Lansing, so I'm just tired. But I'm here in spirit, and I hope I can share something that's very positive. To Mrs. Dobby, of course, Mr. Donald, thank you for your hospitality. Mrs. Tate, and of course, Ms. Brown, all your hard work. She's running right here. Okay, yeah, good job, well done. Ms. Vonado, she was here earlier. She's been a good friend for several years, and she's very committed. Any youth and government students here? Awesome. State YMCA, so I'm very committed to that. Stay involved, and any students who are not involved, to get involved. So with that, I want to be brief because I know the night is getting short, but I just want to say a few things. This is a very historic evening, and history is really the theme of my remarks. Right here you have the maximum amount of individuals who can be inducted into NHS, some 40 students, which is outstanding. And when you think about NHS, it began in 1921, and I'm sure in 1921, no one thought that the leadership of America would be President Barack Obama, and also no one thought that you all would be here tonight getting inducted to the National Honor Society. Ironically, during that time, people would have promoted you to go into something like the skilled trades or something like that, if that at all. And that takes me back to a strong historical lesson. The great dichotomy between W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. And what that was based on, these two African American leaders during the turn of the century had two polar opposite views as far as how African Americans better themselves and how we can do a lot more for our community. That was over 100 years ago. W.B. Du Bois, his outlook was African Americans should focus on a classical education, like going on to school and things like that, while Booker T. Washington promoted a skills trade. That was the way to go. Now, being here in the Motor City, a lot of us have benefited from that wealth of the skills trade, but tonight it's quite obvious what side of the pendulum you would be on. That is W.B. Du Bois, being what he called the talented 10th. The talented 10th. And what the talented 10th is that the top 10% of men and women in the race are supposed to go on to do better things for the world. They're supposed to do that through furthering their education, through writing books, and getting involved in social change. And you represent that tonight. You're a very outstanding group of individuals. As I was looking at the screen earlier, hearing what your future ambitions are, it's very heartwarming to hear that. You need to hold tight to that. So, the National Honor Society's pillars are service, leadership, character. We have another one, scholarship. Thank you. Those are the 4 pillars, and those are the few things I want to touch on this evening. Now, obviously, you guys have grasped the importance of scholarship. That's why being here tonight. But if you really want to stay true to the bedrock principles of the National Honor Society, you need to incorporate those other principles as well. Now, leadership. That's defined as the act of giving. You must display this leadership when you come in contact with other students. You must display this leadership by showing them that getting good grades is a good thing and not a bad thing. Show them that it's not the right thing to do to dumb down their intelligence in order to fit in, but they need to step up their game, be where you are, so they can fit in with you. That's leadership. Service. You look at the definition of service, there's several words that define that, and one term that came to mind was the act of helping through an activity. You must show your service to those students who need it, and you know who they are. These are the people in your classroom, Mrs. Dowley's math class, Mrs. Dowley's math class, who are being challenged and being ridiculed with students because of their math and science ability. But you have to display service by reaching out to them and helping them get to where you are so they can excel just as well. That's service. And character. Let's talk about character. That's defined as a moral or ethical quality. You have to do the right thing. And that's because, just because you possess a natural wit or intelligence, don't use that to your advantage. You need to use that to enhance situations. Put it this way. You don't want to do anything that can end up on the front page of the Detroit News, the Free Press, or being a little bit more into pop culture, Facebook or Twitter. You got connected with that one, right? And speaking of pop culture, I would be remiss if I didn't speak on something else. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah. Now that was a popular song several years ago, but let me make that a little more relevant. Let's say sex, drugs, and hip hop. Now that whole term refers to living a casual, carefree lifestyle. But what I want to talk about is you don't want to be pulled into that. So please heed my words, especially those of you who are going off to college next year and doing other things in the future. Don't get caught up. Don't allow a casual lifestyle to take over your life. Sex. The reality is you can't afford it right now. You can't afford it morally, and you can't afford it practically. The reality is that pregnancy and disease are real. Very real. And young men, don't think because you parent a child that you can get free from the obligation to take care of that child. And it will only derail you from what you want to focus on in the future, if not stop you completely from your goals. Drugs. Don't allow the carefree lifestyle of going to college or being out of high school to allow you to get caught up in drugs and drug abuse. And yes, alcohol is a drug. Now, I won't be a hypocrite. I did indulge during my college days. But I can sit here and tell you this. Drug abuse and drugs and alcohol will not help you reach your full potential. So do not indulge, do not be pulled into that trap. You can't afford to handle what the future offers for you. And lastly, I'll reference rock and roll. We'll be relative and we'll say hip hop. The reality is this. Music is just as powerful as a drug. Lucifer, the angel of music. So you can argue that music can have an overwhelming effect on your personality and your behavior. And the reality is this. Now, I just found out that Jay-Z and Kanye are coming out with an album together. Now, I'll be one of the first ones to get it. Okay? But my point is, I recognize that is entertainment. You can't live your life in the clouds. That is entertainment. You want to have a bedrock, grounded footing. Because if you live that lifestyle and you try to commit to what you hear on the radio, when you listen to your music, you'll end up living a low-budget rap video, and that'll be your life. Nobody wants that. The reality is this. We don't need you living a fantasy. We need you rooted in reality. We need you to do this not for just us, but for yourself. We don't just need you. The world needs you. Why? Because you are the content, Mario. You are the elite of the elite. You are the best that are going to go forward. You are what the slaves dreamed about. You are what grandparents prayed about. And you are what the history books are going to write about. So, as a talent content, we need you to focus on creating that new technology that's going to make the world a better place. We need you to focus on being able to articulate arguments that can make people stop the violence and stop fighting, but make this world a safer place. We need you to be able to help my grandmother whose bedside I just left in the hospital who's fighting cancer. That is what we need from you. We need you to be so focused